at least she was taken seriously and they did everything.
Currently overseeing the work of the Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault, which does focus on prevention of sexual violence and response to survivors of sexual assault. I got into this work, I guess, because even though my bachelor's degree is in chemistry and I worked for 7 years for a chemical research company, I left that company and charged it with sex discrimination. I think that more and more people are becoming aware that it's okay to talk about sexual assault as a problem that needs to be addressed. And more victims are willing to report. As recently as 10 or 15 years ago, it was still a terrible experience in many cases, not everywhere, but in some places, to even report that you had been sexually assaulted, because sometimes the police officer would say, well, you shouldn't have been out there where you were, or why were you wearing those clothes? Or even worse, did you enjoy it when he did that? And obviously, women knew that this could happen to them, and so after this horrible thing happened to them, why would they want to go and be re-traumatized? But groups like the Coalitions Against Sexual Assault are doing trainings. Here in Germany, I know that women's groups are also doing trainings with the police, and I think have succeeded in getting a federal law that requires that the police be trained in working with survivors of sexual assault. So the attitudes are changing with the police, who are responders to these crimes. A lot of hospital personnel have much better responses than they used to when sexual assault survivors come in. Now there's an effort to try to get the judges to be more empathic and to respond in more humane ways. Judges are harder to train than social workers or police officers or medical personnel, because lots of judges think that they already know everything there is to know, and they aren't open to further training, particularly about a problem like this one. But I do see hope of progress because of the progress we've already made. There are still a lot of people willing to work on it and not give up. I was very impressed with the information I've been receiving about how cooperative the police are in Germany. And I think this is a result of national legislation that required police training and that required cooperation by the police. For instance, I heard earlier today that immigrant women, whether they are here in Germany legally or illegally, are brought for services if they need them, if they are found to be survivors of domestic violence. Well, maybe not even survivors, maybe in the midst of domestic violence or in the midst of being sexually abused wherever they live, or if they've been brought into the country illegally and are being forced into prostitution, that the police bring them to the people in the excellent organizations that provide the services. So that's very important. And we don't have anything like that in the United States at the federal level. You know, the US government does not require that kind of training for police. So it's been done much more state by state, territory by territory, Indian nation by Indian nation in the United States. And we certainly could learn from that. Well, there's always more, because we still don't really have equal rights. You know, we don't even have an equal rights provision in our United States Constitution. I was one of the sponsors of that when it was up against the deadline in 1982. So we certainly still need that written into the United States Constitution. There's still equal pay for equal work and reproductive choice and all kinds of women's issues where we haven't achieved perfection. There's still a glass ceiling in many places for women in the workplace. And there are women who break through, but that doesn't mean the ceiling isn't there. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And yes, it's true that a lot of young women now say, well, I'm entitled to equal rights and I'm entitled to all these things. They don't really know that they don't actually have some of them. And so they don't think much about this work that still needs to be done. So probably there'll be another feminist wave, who knows how far in the future, when the light dawns and they realize, well, but we're not really quite there yet. We need to do this again. So it takes awareness of what the problems are and then enough anger to do something about it. I think it will come.